Good evening and welcome to Small Groups. We're so glad that you're here this evening. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to create godly habits. You see, a habit is a routine or a practice that is performed regularly, like the habit of brushing your teeth. I hope you've got that habit. How about the habit of prayer and Bible study? What godly habits do you already have? And if you're having trouble thinking of one, I can tell you one that you've got right now, and that is the habit of attending small groups. This is the habit of what we might call connection. Speaking of habits, the refrigerator at the church, I don't know if you've ever been in the kitchen at the church, but the refrigerator at the church has this annoying habit of making noise whenever someone leaves it open too long. You know, I really wish it would just chill out. I mean, seriously. Habits can be good and they can be bad. Within the framework of good habits, we have what we call godly habits. Godly habits are habits that please God, habits that draw us near to Him, and habits that help us to do His will. Paul, writing to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 4, tells Timothy to refuse profane and old wives' fables. One translation says this is irreverent and silly myths. But he is to exercise himself toward godliness. He goes on to say that bodily exercise profits a little. This is a good habit. But he encourages Timothy to exercise himself unto godliness. This is what we might call godly habits, because godly habits are profitable for all things, having promise of this life. It blesses us and helps us in this life and in the life that is to come. The Bible tells us about a man named Enoch in Genesis chapter 5, and it tells us about him. He walked with God. You see, Enoch had this good godly habit of walking with God, and because of that, because of his good godly habits, he influenced the life of his wife and his children, his grandchildren, and even the life of his great-grandson. You might know him. His name was Noah. So Enoch had this good habit of walking with God. The writer of Hebrews tells us a little bit more about this man named Enoch. It tells us in verse 5 of Hebrews chapter 11, by faith Enoch was taken so that he did not see death, and it was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he had this testimony that he pleased God. He walked with God. His family, his wife, his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandson were affected by his life. Verse 6 of Hebrews chapter 11 goes on to tell us about pleasing God. But without faith, it is impossible to please Him. For he who comes to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. You know, before you can really create a habit that sticks, you have to have a good why, a good reason. And the writer of Hebrews gives us this reason when it comes to godly habits. The reason is God is. He exists. And that is our reason to form godly habits. He exists. This affects our behavior, right? The only proper and logical response to this understanding that God is, that He exists, is for us to diligently seek Him. See, we're invited into this lifelong journey of seeking Him. This why helps us create godly habits. So we can answer this question now, can't we? Of how to create godly habits. And I think it's found in this statement of diligently seeking Him. I have found 3 habits that help me create or form the rest of my godly habits. And that the first habit is to seek Him first. This is what may be called the habit of priority. Is putting God first. Really, this is the only way to seek God, isn't it? To put Him first. The who, God, compels me to seek Him first. The psalmist wrote it this way. David writing said, "O God, you are my God. Early will I seek you. One translation says, earnestly will I seek you. It's putting God first in our time, even in our life situations, in our crisis, in our successes, putting God first. Early simply means putting him as a priority or choosing to give God our best. This is what Jesus was declaring in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added to you. I know of a man who goes to his knees. First thing in the morning, he rolls out of bed, doesn't stand, goes straight to his knees. This is his way of putting God first. We seek first by tithing, giving God our first 10%. We seek him first by not getting distracted in their prayer time. I know someone who refuses to open up their phone until they have spent time with God in prayer and Bible study. It's a good habit. It's making him our priority. The word priority was first coined in the 1400s, and it was used only in its singular form for several hundred years. I know these days we talk about priorities in a plural fashion, but to really get the true understanding of the word, we must understand that it can only affect our life if we see it as a singular term. Make God your one and only priority. Put him first. The second habit that I have learned that can help me create other godly habits in my life is to seek less, to seek more. This is the habit of limitation. You see, we really all must embrace the limited nature of our lives. See, we can't have it all, we can't do it all, and we can't be it all. I know society and advertising and even some educational trends want to tell us that we can. We can have it all, we can do it all, and we can be it all. But that's simply just not true. I have to embrace the fact that I'm a human male. Well, and that's limiting, right? It limits me from being a female. It limits me from thinking maybe I could be a dog. It is limiting, but it's also freeing. It helps me to embrace who God has made me and helps me seek his will for my life. I have to accept the fact that because of my humanity, I need sleep. I need 8 hours of sleep a night. This is limiting. I can't do things 24/7, but it frees me to be my best in the waking 16 hours of my day. Moses wrote in a prayer song in Psalm 90, he said these words, "Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom." He was saying seek less so that you can seek more. Understanding that my days are limited gives me wisdom to use the days that I have productively and wisely. Our time is limited, so we must also limit the distractions in our time. Like the person who refuses to check their phone during their devotion times. They're limiting those distractions. I know of a family who turns their phones off an hour a day while they spend time together at a family meal. It gives them the opportunity to connect with each other and connect with what God is doing in their lives. This family also limits their media intake to 4 hours. Not a day, but 4 hours a week. So you can't have it all, you can't do it all, and you can't be it all. But if you will limit your life, this will give you the opportunity to diligently seek God. Limit the distractions and focus on him. The third and last habit that I think helps us form good, godly habits in our life is the habit of seeking him with others. This is the habit of connection. You see, solo is not a Christian concept. Even the Lord's Prayer teaches us this. The very first word of it is our Father. And throughout this prayer, we see words like give us, forgive us, as we forgive, lead us, deliver us. This is the habit of connection. Even Paul, when he was talking about the shield of faith, Use the Roman shield as the concept. This shield was a shield that connected with other shields. You see, our faith, connected with somebody else's faith, gives us the ability to live overcoming lives. We can't live for God by ourselves, but when we seek Him with others, our faith is strengthened. This is what we're doing tonight, right? We're connecting with other people. It's what we do on Sundays around here at New Life Church. It's what we do when we share a meal with a friend or a coworker, or give someone a Bible study. When we tell others what God has done in our lives, we are making strong connections. You see, creating godly habits is a lifelong journey, a lifelong process, and it helps us diligently seek Him. These three habits, the habit of seeking Him first, or the habit of priority, the habit of seeking less to seek more, or the habit of limitations, and the habit of seeking Him with others, or the habit of connections, can serve us well as we endeavor to walk with God and please Him, and also as we continue to try to develop other good godly habits in our lives and encourage those kinds of things in the lives of others. Your small group leaders are now going to lead you in a time of discussion. God bless you.